What is going on, beautiful people? This is your sister Riziki-Zafira, and I'm just going to give a couple of minutes for people to kind of catch up as to what exactly is going on this particular video. And before I get started, so I wanted to kind of give insight as to why I'm doing this little mini series, and it's not going to be long, probably, I mean, no more than 30 minutes, 15 at the least. I didn't really want to have this long and drawn out, but I really wanted to start this series because there's a lot of misconception, a lot of confusion and misunderstanding overall as far as what exactly is Tantra, where it comes from, why is it important for us to know, how do we use it, how does it benefit, so forth and so on. And so what I've done is, because again, I will be starting classes, I will actually start teaching the tier 1 course of the Grand Trine system of Tantra coming June 3rd. I wanted to again just answer questions to give answers to frequently asked questions that may cause confusion. Again, you know, one of the things that kind of I don't want to say, well, I'm gonna say grinds my gears about this whole thing is that there's a lot of people who have a lot of insight and you know and definitions and input on Tantra and haven't studied a lick of it, haven't practiced a lick of it, haven't been in it long enough to actually try to give a well-rounded perspective on what it actually is and how it actually benefits people. So again, there's about 17 questions, but I'm just going to do one question a week. And again, if there's anybody in the chat room who have questions that you want me to address immediately, I mean, I can do that, that's fine, but I just wanted to get started. So the first thing, well, the first question of this series is, what exactly is Tantra? And I want to get into that. So first off, I want to talk about the definition of Tantra, and there are many. People have different definitions as to what it is, and you have some people who think that Tantra is all about sex. Other people feel as if Tantra is more so a way of life as far as experiencing the highest and best version of life. And that's more so along the lines of what the system that I came through, Grand Trine Tantra, is about. We describe Tantra as awakening the highest and best version of you, okay? So you have, you know, Tibetan Tantra, you have Tantra that is strictly surrounded or based upon Hindu principles or Buddhist principles, to whereas our system comes from a culmination of indigenous societies, which consist of the Nile Valley, the Indus Valley, the Native American civilization, and a culture of Angkor Wat. Again, do your research, but in my class, I definitely go more into that. So again, all right, what is Tantra? All right, so Tantra, again, is about bliss. It's about breaking blockages. And again, this is the definition that our system resonates with. So in order to experience tantric bliss or bliss overall in life, we do a series of exercises working with the body, working with the mental, working with the spirit, working with the breath, okay? And we understand that the breath, the mind, the emotions, the spirit, they all work as one. It's like an ecology. It's like an ecological system. And if the mental is off, then it can hinder other parts of your being from expressing its highest version of itself. So Tantra, in a sense, is a full awakening of all of your faculties so that you can be in a full awareness. And once you become into that full awareness, you experience more orgasmic living, rather it be through sex, your friendships, your business dealings, the relationship you have within your community, the relationship you have within your family. You have left hand path and you have right hand path. So the left hand, well, I'll say this, the difference between the left hand path and the right hand path. So you have one path that is more so, working with, deities and, how can I say, spiritual entities, working with elements, working with, things that aren't visible to the naked eye, right? You have another path that's more so dealing with practicality, practical solutions. This may incorporate yoga. This may incorporate reflexology, knowledge of the acupuncture meridian, so forth and so on. And again, I encourage you all to do your research, but the basis of these videos is for you to understand when you hear the word Tantra, it's not just black and white, cut and dry. There's many definitions, okay, based on the civilization or society from which it came. I also wanted to stress the fact that, as far as what exactly Tantra is a very new word, okay? In the Grand Trine system, we pretty much use the word Tantra because we understand that this is what a lot of people know. This is what a lot of people are familiar with. However, when you take a look at the societies that predated our civilization, there were many rites of passages that young boys and young girls went through to usher their way into adulthood, okay? This involved sexual rites. This involved knowing your role in the family as a father, husband, brother, teacher, provider, protector, nurturer, as well as women. So again, you had certain rites of passage or exercises or, initiations, again, to activate these certain faculties in a particular person. Our ancient ancestors understood that there are certain rites and rituals or exercises that a young man or a young woman must go through or experience in order to cultivate certain characteristics or skills that is needed to function properly in a marriage, in a family, in a community, in a society, okay? And accomplishing that highest and best version of yourself is Tantra, okay? So it's not all about sex. Sex is a part of it, because sex is a very high form of creativity and connecting and spirituality. Sex is a phenomenon that creates life. It creates a whole other human being. And so if you have a particular act that is able to create a whole human being, it can also create other things. Now, again, I'm not going to get too deep into that because I just want everybody to understand what Tantra is. Again, it does, involve being more comfortable with your sexuality. It places more value in sexual relationships when it comes to man and woman. But like, for instance, for me, I don't only utilize Tantra in the bedroom. A lot of Tantric principles has helped me as a person with my patience, with my understanding. Like, if a situation happens, I no longer focus on what exactly was said or done. I also focus on the why did that person do that? What did they go through? Or, what pain or hurt have they experienced in order for them to react this certain way in this situation? So again, Tantra isn't all about orgasms. It's also about consciously relating with the opposite sex, and in some instances the same sex, depending on the dynamic in which you're dealing in. For instance, through Tantra, I have realized the importance of sisterhood. Okay, before I wasn't interested in having a lot of female friends. I'm just going to be honest about that. I was not interested in, healing certain parts of myself because I figured I could just suppress, those negative experiences, even though they still left a blockage for me not to exude or develop or cultivate certain faculties that I needed to cultivate in myself. So again, you have different schools of thought when it comes to Tantra. I just want to be clear that when you hear the word Tantra, to not get totally turned off. I encourage people to research exactly what it is and the society or civilization that it comes from, because then it'll give you insight as far as the principles and the goals that they're trying to accomplish. There are also, three different, I want to say, schools of thought, if you will, in Tantra. Okay, we have yogic, mystical, and active. Okay, the mystical aspect of Tantra is, again, working with deities, orishas, or, certain supernatural, if you will, forces out there to better help cultivate the mind, body, and spirit. You have yogic Tantra, and we all heard of yoga, right? It deals with body posture. It also can involve the science of breathing to help cultivate and heal certain parts of you that needs to be brought online. And then you have active Tantra, which is more so, even though, our system kind of includes both yogic and mystical, but when it comes to the active, and the reason why I like it is because it's dealing with real practical solutions. For instance, okay, I was never challenged to really take a look at my behavior, and this is why I really love the Grand Trine system, because it incorporates science. Okay, so we're understanding, certain acupuncture meridians, and how they contribute to how our bodies function, and the reflexology of it. Okay, as far as, you can touch a pressure point and it correlates to other parts of the body, so forth and so on. So we also understand anatomy. We also understand the science behind things, the cells, the dendrites in our brains. We study behavioral patterns. We study, what kind of mask or counterfeit personality that we develop based on negative experiences. And many of us have been through things like rejection, abandonment, abuse that made us develop certain personality traits that may hinder us from authentic living, right? So for instance, you have many women who have went through abuse, and you have men who went through abandonment, rather, from their mom or their dad, whatever. And because of that abuse or abandonment, there is a wall that's built up. There is a personality trait that was developed, okay? And because of that personality trait, it may cause blockage in our relationships, or us attracting certain relationships that we want. Another thing that Tantra is about is recognizing that, yes, although I am this physical body, I'm also a spiritual body. I'm actually the spirit body first, because without a spirit in me, like, my body wouldn't even be functioning. So with Tantra, we understand that we have to heal and cultivate the spirit body in order for the physical body to perform properly. Everything that exists physically was a thought first, right? Thought is energy. So again, when we understand that Tantra is dealing with the energy body in order to better cultivate the physical body or the physical world, again, this is our form of Tantra. And when I say our, I'm talking about the system in which I was brought through, which is Grand Trine University. And again, that is coming from 4 major indigenous systems of the Indus Valley, the Nile Valley, the Native American systems, and the culture of Angkor Wat. Again, if you all enroll in a class, we will definitely take a look at these civilizations, because these sexual rites of passage is like many of the foundation that you see today in more modern forms of Tantra. Now, many of the systems won't admit that, and I'm not here to knock any other system. I'm all for whatever works for you. I know an awesome sister who teaches Tibetan Tantra. They don't more so deal with Kundalini energy, but our system of Tantra does. And it's not to negate or knock that system. I've seen her in action. She's an excellent practitioner. But again, everybody was not cultivated in the same culture with the same indigenous systems or whatever. So it's all about what resonates with you. And what resonated with me was getting taught systems or practices from these 4 major civilizations, which also are representative of the elements of the universe: air, earth, fire, and water. And again, I don't want to get too deep now, but again, the main purpose of answering this question, what is Tantra, is so that people understand this is not a one size fits all kind of thing. When you understand that Tantra is literally the usage of the mind, body, spirit, breath, thought, word, working together to create and produce, that is Tantra. Again, remember, Tantra is a new word, okay? Many indigenous systems from way back then has already had their own sexual rites of passages. They've had their own, ceremonies or initiations to cultivate feminine faculties in a woman and masculine faculties of a man, okay? All of these different civilizations had different names for these practices. However, in the day and time that we're in now, a lot of cultures took this information or these practices that may have been similar to theirs and coined the word Tantra. So when you hear the word Tantra, okay, look beyond that word. Think of it more as to a system that incorporates rites of passages, ceremonies, exercises, a way of living to activate the highest and best version of you. Again, rather that be in the bedroom or outside of the bedroom. I guess I can do 2 questions. Okay, so that was the first question. What is Tantra? Again, and to review, I want you all, for those who are just tuning in, again, understand that, you have Tantra that is based from a Hindu perspective, Tantra that's based from a Tibetan perspective, and with Grand Trine, which is where I came through, Tantra based on indigenous perspectives from those 4 cultures that I mentioned earlier. The next question that I wanted to address is, will your practice help sexually immature couples? All right, so even though I just mentioned that Tantra is not all about, oh wait, you know what? I'm going to answer that question on another video, because I kind of want to stay in the flow of what Tantra is. So I wanted to talk about, the negative feedback from religious communities. That's another question. Do you get negative feedback from religious communities? Absolutely, because religious communities have been shunned away from these practices because they're taught that it is evil. And it's funny because in a lot of religious communities, a lot of religious people, not saying all, but, we hear on the news about, in a lot of religious communities where there's molestation of little boys or infidelity with amongst the congregation or the pastor in the congregation, homosexuality, so forth and so on. And so what happens is religious communities, they advocate the suppression of sexual expression, of sexual liberation. And it's not all about being willy-nilly and just out there having sex with every Tom, Dick, and Harry or Jane, Sue, and Mary. It's about being honest with yourself and understand what do you feel is lacking in your relationship to make you feel that you need to seek other partners or so forth and so on. So when we're not realistic about these things, when we're not realistic about these things, this is why I had to just go away from the religious community, because a lot of religious communities act like this stuff doesn't happen. A lot of religious communities just act like just because you read the Quran or the Bible or whatever spiritual scripture is out there, that man and woman still don't have a desire to go out and have sex with someone else, or get emotional fulfillment from someone else, or get mental fulfillment from someone else, or get healing from someone else. So yes, I've ran into quite a few people that are in my tier or whatever, who I graduated with, and they came from strict religious backgrounds, straight out of the Christian church. And, they still can't believe the transformation that they went through and how it broke a lot of the misconceptions and, misinformed opinions that were out there about what Tantra is. It's not a bad thing. It's literally about keeping it real about the dynamic between man and woman, realizing that man and woman have needs, not just in the bedroom, but in life overall. Okay. And there are certain, again, practices, exercises, so forth and so on to help fulfill what we feel is lacking. All right. Third question, and then this is it. I'm going to close it out. Let me see. What's another one? All right. So what do the 3 tiers of your practice consist of? All right. That's another good question. And I'm going to end off with this one. Okay. So my class is Tier 1, Awakening the Blueprint. All right. And in order for me to be certified in teaching this, I had to complete 3 tiers of this system. There's more tiers, but again, I've completed the 3 that's required of me so far. And in the 3 tier systems, I'm not going to lie, it's some work. I mean, in this journey, I cried, I screamed, I laughed, I hugged, I rolled on the floor, jumped up and down, danced, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's literally about, or I'll say it's literally an encouragement to express yourself, to break whatever blockage or insecurities that you have. So there's 3 tiers. The first tier is, again, the reason why I called it Awakening the Blueprint, and you can read the description in the description below, but it's literally about cultivating the highest and best version of you. So how do we do that? Number 1, we take a look at the physical body, we learn the anatomy, we learn certain pressure points, acupuncture meridians, where they lead to, how it helps heal, other parts of the body. We take a look at the houses of man and woman. And if you all tuned in onto my tea talks with my sisters, Dr. Oya Maya and Wakesho L, we talked about these 4 houses of man and woman that need to be activated in order for man and woman to portray the highest and best version of themselves in order to fulfill the role that they are meant to fulfill in society. Again, as a father, as a husband, as a provider, as a protector, and the woman as, the nurturer, the gatherer, the person who is beautiful and, she's seductive and, she knows how to, give pleasure, and also the woman who knows how to see the vision. This is what we explore in tier 1. We also explored the counterfeit personality. Remember earlier on, I talked about, you know, a lot of, hey, sis, Micah, I know you hyped for this class, boo. But okay, so, girl, you made me lose my thought. All right. Oh yeah, counterfeit personality. Okay, so before I talked about how many of us experience abuse or abandonment or rejection, and because of those experiences, we've developed walls or protection mechanisms, if you will, rather it be your defensive or offensive or whatever the case may be. You develop this personality as a protection mechanism, and we don't understand that a lot of those times those walls are blockages, and we wonder why we're not experiencing fulfillment in relationships and so forth. You got to remove those. You have to take a look back at, you know, the experience that made you develop that wall, right? And then break it down, because this is what hinders your magnetism, right? There's people in this world who could just think and speak stuff and it happens. You know why? Because a lot of their fear is gone. They don't have a lot of blockage, and they have not developed a lot of protection mechanisms, you know, from negative experiences. They literally know how to embrace whatever situation that they've come into and just work through it. So that's another thing. All right, and I think that's it for now because I don't want to talk your head off. Okay, so if you've learned anything from this video, what is Tantra? Okay, Tantra is not all about sex. It is about incorporating science, spirituality, and practical solutions in obtaining, or excuse me, in successfully fulfilling the highest and best version of you. Again, you have left hand path, you have right hand path. Do your research. You have Tantra that's based from the Hindu perspective, and then the Tibetan perspective. Do your research. Again, our perspective is different. Okay, we definitely use, like I said, the 4 major indigenous cultures. Again, review back the video if you want to know what those are. And again, I really like it because it's really practical. We consider diet, cell therapy, orthomolecular nutrition. I mean, the list goes on, but I'm going to stop here and save the rest of the questions for next week. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up let me know in the comments, or, you know, hit me up on Facebook, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right. In the meantime, y'all, peace and love, and thanks for watching. Deuces.